The biggest Switch rumor for eons has been the mythical Switch Pro. This better console that brings gorgeous graphics, bigger games, and more performance power to Nintendo fans' faces. And it looks pretty serious given how sure that Bloomberg report was, where it sounds like Nintendo is already churning the cogs to make this console a reality in 2021. But what if I told you that you don't need it? Nintendo might not even need it. That it's possible to play better performing, prettier games on Switch, and nobody needs a new system. What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. Smash that like button and let me know what game isn't on Switch that you wish was. Which one do you wish you could play? We're taking a look at some titles that probably have no business being on Nintendo's platform, but they are, thanks to the cloud. And my eyes were opened to the absolute fanciness of this freaking cool program a week or so ago when I got to play Control after the partner showcase. Now, I was blown away by how well Control played, and it reminded me that over in Japan, they've had Assassin's Creed Odyssey, they've had Resident Evil 7, and they have unlocked this secret sauce. Now, we're going to get more of it, with Hitman 3 being officially confirmed, and Resident Evil 3 sounding like it's right around the corner. It's all possible thanks to an awesome company called Ubitus, or Ubitus. It's like Ubisoft in terms of multiple pronunciations, but they're making magic happen. And they say there are even more tentpole titles coming. Now, this could be a game changer for Switch. Who needs more processing power when you got the cloud? I was shocked by how well Control worked on the platform, and the fact that you could throw it in either graphics mode or performance mode. And to me, they looked similar, but performance controlled even better. I loved it. This is a third-person shooter that struggles to run on Xbox One and PS4. And here on Switch, it's totally playable. You can enjoy this game, and they didn't even Switch tax you. They dropped the Ultimate Edition for $40. That's all the DLC, all the extras for $40, instead of normally we get the baseline version or even a worse version for $60. So the future here is so promising. Imagine playing Cyberpunk. CD Projekt Red already delivered a phenomenal port in The Witcher 3 on Nintendo Switch, but what if they didn't even have to port it? What if they could put the game on the cloud and let us play it day and date or soon after? How wicked and wild would that be to explore the new world from one of the best devs on the planet on Switch and not have to sacrifice all that much sexiness? I mean, I don't know if that specifically would work, but if Odyssey can work, I think Valhalla is totally possible. If Resident Evil 7 and 3 can work, who says Village can't run on the console via the cloud? And to me, now you have this impending, probable Switch Pro that will be more expensive and might make some Switch owners say, what? I already bought the Switch. I love the stuff I've got. I don't want to invest in another upgraded model, especially if it's not going to go all the way to 4K or all the way to PS5 and Series X. I'd rather spend the money there. So I think it would be so interesting if Nintendo opted to, instead of devote their attention to a Switch Pro, to devote more time and effort to the cloud. And it's possible they do both. But for those of you that already own a Switch, I think this is the most exciting development that has happened in ages. Any game, or virtually any game, should be easily accessible if they can work to put it on the cloud. And that process costs less and takes less time than merging it or making it move via a full port. That's tricky. You got to get a port studio. You got to spend the time and money. You got to condense everything to this cartridge. You got to make it work. You got to fit inside the parameters that Nintendo has established for the Switch and what the hardware is capable of. Watch Dogs Legion, dude. Throw it on the cloud and let us play. The caveat here is that not everybody has great internet. I'm lucky enough to sit here with a 100 down, 100 up connection, and so the game purred like a new kitten. But I know many of you don't have anywhere near those speeds. So this isn't a solvent, right? This isn't something that solves the entire equation for Nintendo in terms of getting more games from third parties on their platform, but it's an interesting option, and one that doesn't seem to cost a lot, doesn't seem to take a lot, and so I wonder, will they just open the floodgates and bring tons more titles via this method? It's not really hurting anything because it's not taking time away from those companies putting something else on Switch or working on a true port. In fact, they probably would never have even tried. I don't think Remedy ever considers putting Control on the Switch without access to the cloud. And so it's just expanding the catalog in a way that doesn't affect the current lineup. And if Nintendo doesn't have to be directly involved, even better. Let them work on 3D World Deluxe plus Bowser's Fury. Let them work on Metroid Prime 4 one day. Let them work on whatever else is planned for 2021 and throw a bunch of games via the cloud. The Switch Pro will most assuredly not split the audience. We're talking in terms of exclusive games. I don't see it happening. It'll allow for better performance and better graphics and probably upgrade and update some games that are already out there. Hopefully we can get bigger carts to allow for bigger games. But something like Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is 285 gigabytes on PC and PS5. There's no way you'll ever condense that to a cartridge. I'm not advocating for multiplayer shooters being put onto the cloud because I think that might be a little dicey given the random lag moments and some of the input latency slowdown. But just imagine a game like that has no business being on Switch and wouldn't be physically possible on Switch, can't even fit that thing into an expanded cart, but now could in theory come via the cloud. To me, this is a development that opens up the platform in ways that we haven't seen since Nintendo's early indie initiative. And the Switch era has been all about Nintendo capturing audiences and segments of the gaming industry in ways that they didn't do previously. Yes, there were some interesting indies on like the 3DS and the Wii U, but nowhere near the plethora and the exclusives and the timed exclusives that we get on the Switch. They opened up the system to be region-free. You can access other countries' eShops, which is awesome, especially if you want early access to some games. I've shown you guys in countless videos how that works wonderfully. They've allowed so many third parties and partnered with companies, games, and titles that we didn't think previously fit with Nintendo, and now they do. They've really expanded their audience in so many ways. And to me, the cloud is another opportunity. Now, a half-step upgrade isn't unfamiliar to Nintendo. They've done it with their handhelds, but it would be a first in the console space. And I think it would behoove them to still release the Switch Pro, but I'm telling you, they don't need it. This is where I believe Nintendo in 2021 should really devote some effort and continue to promote this stuff. Remember, it's existed over in the East for a while now. I remember trying to play Resident Evil 7 and completely failing because it's just too far for the connection to be any good. But now that they've brought it to the West, and if they continue to work, as the internet continues to progress, better speeds become more accessible for more of the audience, why not? And you begin to think of what games could come to the Switch, not just past titles, right? Whenever we make a video about what games we want on Switch, like the Dead Space collection. Previously, it was the BioShock collection until they made that magic happen. Oh, the Fallout games. No. Now we could talk about games that aren't out yet. You could look at titles like Outriders. You could look at titles like Control. You could look at titles like Cyberpunk 2077. You could look at titles deep into 2021 and say, wow, that game could work on Switch. Now, I'm not entirely sure if a brand spanking new next-gen title would work via the cloud. Maybe there is some stipulation. Maybe there are some barriers. Maybe it wouldn't be everything brand spanking new. But I'm telling you, after seeing the way that The Outer Worlds started off on Switch, and yes, they've improved it, but after seeing how it began, I would much rather experience a game of that magnitude via the cloud. I think it is super interesting and super exciting for Nintendo to look towards the future. To have a game as good as Control and as pretty as Control and is so disassociated with Nintendo as Control to now be on the Switch, it's remarkable. If you look at the expansion of the gaming industry, it's been intense. But Nintendo has made such significant strides, and they have done so much so well. For all the crap I and you give them for no generals this year, they brought it together with a pretty good package. It took them many performances for us to see the full picture, but I like what they did with the partner showcases now that all is said and done for the calendar year. And they brought so much goodness first-party wise already. The exclusive lineup is insane. Third-party support has been mediocre at best. We're still missing some major titles like Madden, Call of Duty. There are some studios and publishers that don't want to mess, but I think the cloud would open it up. And I'm super curious to see who they're working with already, who they have lined up to just drop this stuff and bring it. Hitman 3 is a super interesting one, a game that isn't out yet, a game that has a lot going on, and again, a game that nobody would expect on Switch. So now we can really tilt things up to a higher gear. Games that we never thought possible are plausible, and that is pretty freaking exciting. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Let me know what game you'd love to see on Switch that isn't, even if it's a future release. Smash that like button, and until next time, have a fantastic day. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay smart. I love you a lot. SwitchForce, out.